Yo, what's up, everyone, and welcome back to the Locked On 49ers Squad Show. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel. You may know me as the former producer for the Murph and Mac Morning Show on KMBR. And today we got to talk about the 49ers' big gaping hole at safety. What are they going to do at that position? We've talked about it a little bit before, but today we are going to do a deep dive into the free agent class and the upcoming NFL draft prospects.
Hey everyone, it's Wayne Boyd, four-time Super Bowl champion with the San Francisco 49ers, and we have to bring up the Seattle Seahawks poaching the San Francisco 49er coaching staff, and why would the 49ers let that happen?
I'm Ayrton Osley, USA Today, and I'll be talking a little bit about where Mac Jones could end up if the 49ers decide to trade him.
A lot to talk about today, and maybe some Pro Football Focus Top 101 discussion. We'll get into it all today on the Locked On 49ers Squad Show, which starts right now.
To all the faithful, it's the 49ers Squad. Everything San Francisco 49ers every week. Covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from Levi's Stadium. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. For those faithful to the Bay, the 49ers Squad Show starts now.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the latest edition of the Locked On 49ers Squad Show. Shout out to everyone watching on the Locked On 49ers YouTube channel, or if you're listening on the Locked On 49ers podcast feed, we appreciate you too. Make sure you're subscribed, hit that subscribe button right now. If you aren't already subscribed, why wouldn't you be? And guys, we got a lot to get through today. We had a long show yesterday where we ran about 10 minutes late, and we'll try and keep it a little more concise today, but we got a lot of topics, so we got to get right into it. Let's start with the Mac Jones situation, because the most important position in all of sports is quarterback. And of course, Mac Jones has drawn a lot of interest from around the league. A lot of quarterback needy teams every offseason in the NFL. And this year's no different. You got the Steelers, you got the Jets, you got the Dolphins. The Vikings might be in the mix for finding a quarterback should J.J. McCarthy not really work out. There's a ton of different speculative situations that the 49ers could find themselves in with trading Mac Jones away. And obviously, if you got depth at one position and you got all these holes at all these other positions and you can trade away a quarterback, you can usually get a pretty good haul back. So, Ayrton, I know that this has been a topic that the 49ers have, kind of squashed a few different times. They've said pretty definitively, we aren't going to trade Mac Jones, but we also know how these situations go. And if someone's dangling a couple, early draft picks or a player that can fill a much needed hole that the 49ers have, these things can change fast. So are you buying the rhetoric coming out of Jed York and John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan saying, we're not trading this guy, he's going to be a 49er next year? Or do you think that they're going to consider some of these offers?
I think if they're smart, they're going to consider the offers. You got to, in this situation, in this league, if someone's coming calling for one of your depth pieces, you got to make the most of it. I mean, there's options for the quarterback position beyond Jones when it comes to what's on the roster right now. I know the staff drafted Curtis Rourke a couple of years ago. He had to medically redshirt his rookie season as he recovered from a late season knee injury. So ideally, you'd think after having that redshirt season, Rourke could potentially be coming along enough where he could be a viable backup. Otherwise, why just spend a draft pick on him? So the idea there being you should have enough in-house, ideally. And if someone's coming through looking at the landscape of this quarterback free agent class as well as the draft class, there are too many quarterback needy teams for the options available. So it'd be a disservice to just immediately quash and immediately say no to any offer that comes in.
Yeah, and Anthony in the chat is beating me to the punch. The next point I was going to bring up is obviously Brock Purdy has had a lot of injuries he's dealt with in the last few years, and he's missed a lot of games. And this last season, having Mac Jones as your backup, I mean, that's the reason the 49ers made the playoffs. Like, without Mac Jones, I don't think it's too out there to say that the 49ers missed the playoffs in 2025, 2026. So he's obviously important. And prior to him, you had Sam Darnold. But there is something there because you were able to pivot from Sam Darnold, and a lot of people said the same thing. Like it was a gamble to kind of let him go and not bring him back in a backup situation. Also, I don't think Sam was kind of looking to do that same thing again. And Mac is pretty much in the same situation. He's a guy who's made it very clear that he wants to start again in the NFL. And there's a lot of places that are happy to give him that opportunity right now. So Dwayne, do you think it would be smarter for them to hold on to him or smarter for them to trade him away, considering without him last year, you don't make the playoffs?
Well, I think, where you're looking at with the 49ers, they're looking at all the needs in other areas, right? So right now, quarterback is probably your best bet at getting the best draft picks when you trade. So I would think that they wouldn't have no problem trading him for a couple of high round draft picks, and that's only going to make the team better. We talked about what the 49 needs. They have needs in every area, and at offensive line, they need someone. At safety, they need a safety, and also we talked about another pass rusher. So I think if the right offer comes along, he's gone. But you know what always happened though. If they trade him away and something happens to him, who knows? Josh Johnson is still available at 55 years old, and it'll be his 14th time with the 49ers maybe. But hey, that guy, he's like going to the supermarket, He's always on sale in the special department.
Oh man, I mean, we saw what happened last time. We needed to throw.
Yeah, we did, didn't we? Yeah,
man, I don't think we want to kick the tires on that again. But I mean, it's hard for me to feel like the 49ers couldn't do this again. I mean, they were able to go and find a reclamation project in Sam Darnold, develop him, get him, clicking and firing on all cylinders, and then send him on his way. You get Mac Jones. You kind of fix some of the things that have been wrong with him in these last couple situations he's been in. Also, it's not like these guys were coming from particularly great situations. I mean, Sam Darnold was playing for the damn Jets. You know what I mean? Like, that's anybody who's playing quarterback for the Jets in the last decade is just not playing very good football. I mean, even Aaron Rodgers went there and immediately just out for the season, and that didn't even work out for a first ballot Hall of Famer. And so the Jets, I feel like, are just perennially cursed, and any quarterback that goes there is going to be bad. Mac Jones, in not the best situation in New England when they were going through their rebuild, and he didn't look that great. He played a year in Jacksonville also behind Trevor Lawrence, and it wasn't Jacksonville's coaching staff, their offensive scheme, the way that they work with their quarterbacks, not quite the same as getting a Kyle Shanahan and his brain trust in there and being able to tinker and fix some of these issues that some of these quarterbacks that they've brought in the past have been having. And obviously, Brock Purdy himself was brought in as a backup, and he obviously eventually turned into what he is now, which is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. So I have a hard time thinking that the 49ers should not make this trade. Like, yes, Mac Jones was a big part of why you won those games and were without Brock Purdy and were able to get into the postseason, but they can do it again. Like, Kyle Shanahan and company has shown that they can do this with, I'm not going to say anybody in the NFL, but I mean, you can go find a reclamation project out there in free agency, bring them in, and see if you can't recreate some of that magic that you got with Sam Darnold and Mac Jones. And I think that makes them, puts them in a really good position because, as you guys have both mentioned, they have so many holes. You can't go fill a guard position, a pass rusher, a safety, rebuild your entire wide receiver room in one offseason without making some moves. You aren't just going to go and sign a bunch of dudes and come in and just problem solved. That's not how that works. This isn't the Dodgers, okay? I mean, it's not. You can just go buy a championship, and it's just not how the NFL works. So the 49ers, I think, in my opinion, it would be in their best interest to go and trade away Mac Jones. But of course, it depends on what you're getting back. So, Ayrton, what do you think that the 49ers would need to get back in order to actually pull the trigger on a trade like this?
I think it's got to be at least one. I feel like a top, probably a round 2 pick is where, like, okay. Ideally, 2 top 100 picks. So if that means 2/3, a second and a third, a second and a fourth, maybe if we're pushing it a little bit. But I think the realm of either a decent second round pick or multiple top 100 picks, maybe a little bit later. I think that's because the incentive here is it's not your starter. So teams aren't necessarily going to be offering a first rounder. I think that's a little far-fetched. Unless people get very, very desperate, I think that's going to be a little bit tough to get out of another team. But I think something in that range should be doable, just because, again, looking at the landscape, what other options are there? This is a proven starter. He's come through with the 49ers. We've seen other quarterbacks succeed after coming through here. So it's like, okay, this is a reclamation project. That's, Kyle Shanahan and company, as you said, have kind of that brain trust has helped. That's worth, I'd say, a second round pick. Regardless, if it starts to become a bidding war, if there's a few teams involved, all it takes is 2 teams to bid against each other. And it's like, all right, let's get multiple day 2 draft picks.
Yeah. And, there's the intriguing thing for me is you have a former 49ers coach in Robert Saleh that has now taken over in Tennessee. And obviously there's a level of familiarity there. And we see all the time in the NFL, guys going back to what they know, guys going back to other players, other coaches that they know that they can trust and that they can lean on. And I don't know. It seems to me like there might be some juice there for Robert Saleh and the Tennessee Titans to go and maybe try and take a swing at a Mac Jones, especially since there's not a whole lot of, at least in my opinion, I don't think this quarterback draft class is going to be super special. I mean, I think Mendoza is going to be a solid player in the NFL. I think he's going to have a long career, and I think he's going to be a very good player. I don't know if he's great, and I don't know that anybody else in this draft class is even remotely in the same room as him right now. I mean, I'm sure that 1 or 2 guys will pop and will perform higher than we all expected them to, but as happens in every single NFL draft. But there's just not a lot of sure things at the quarterback position in the NFL draft this year, which I think boosts Mac's value a little bit higher. And Dwayne, talking about the familiarity aspect, do you think that there might be something there with Robert Saleh maybe trying to go back and kick the tires on a Mac Jones, since there is that familiarity there?
Yeah, I would look at him being a guy that could end up in Tennessee, or also you got to look at the Steelers too, because of Mike. He's there, and he's more of a West Coast offense guy, and that's the kind of quarterback that he's looking for too. But I would probably think that Tennessee, they have a guy there that I think that they're invested in. And I don't know if they'll go for Mac Jones or not. I see him going to the Steelers more than going over to Tennessee. And
I mean, I know. I know they got Cam Ward last year, but I feel like they would want that veteran guy in there to maybe not to take Cam Ward's job away, but to push him. You know what I mean? And maybe you don't get a second rounder for that, but maybe you do get. I don't think it's out of the question to maybe get 2/3 for a Mac Jones. And with where the 49ers are at right now, and with how deep this draft is at wide receiver, like we talked about yesterday, I wouldn't hate that. I really wouldn't hate that for the 49ers to pivot off of him for 2/3 and to go roll the dice on some young talent, maybe get some speed in the draft, because we know that this team desperately needs to add some speed to this roster at every single position. And I think that you're in a position with the 49ers right now where you got a surplus at one position, and it's the most valuable position. And then you got all these other areas that you need help in. So why not do something there? Why not balance those scales a little bit and get this team moving back in the right direction? So I'm not sure if this is going to happen, but we'll see what comes down the pipe in the lead up to the NFL draft. And obviously the 49ers, they make a lot of draft day trades. This is a front office that never stops working. I mean, I feel like John Lynch is on the phone with 13 different other GMs until like the very last second, right before they make their pick. And so I think there's always a chance that door is always open. But Ayrton, how realistic do you think it is that they will make a deal? Do you think that it's more likely, like more plausible, that they'll end up trading him? Or do you think it's more plausible that they'll end up holding on?
I think it's more plausible that they'll end up trading him. Just because I think, again, looking at the landscape, there's quarterback needy teams. One team that I keep coming back to is Minnesota. Minnesota, their cap situation is not great, so they probably have to move some stuff around. figure out some ways to cut some veterans, make that work but that is a roster that's ready to win now. And looking at last year, how they struggled at quarterback, I could see them being like, okay, we got to make a move. We got to maximize Justin Jefferson's prime. We got to maximize the Brian Flores defense. We got to get the most out of these guys. It's a win now team in a competitive division. So I could see them offering one. And I think it's just going to be, I think the price, the return would be too good. It'll get to a point where the return is too good, where, John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan will be sitting there going, are we really going to say no to this because we love this backup quarterback, because we love having a backup quarterback? The value is just going to be too high. I think something happens.
You can only play one quarterback on the field at a time. I mean, it's not like Mac Jones can go out there with Brock Purdy at the same time and help his team win. And obviously, you need help in other positions, and that's really what it comes down to. I'm sitting here shaking my head while you're talking about J.J. McCarthy and the damn Vikings, because I am the guy, as you know, Ayrton, we are in a fantasy football league together, who I sat there and planted the flag. Justin Jefferson is quarterback proof. This guy is going to be the best wide receiver in the NFL again this year. I do not care who is throwing him the football. Oh my God, I could not have been more wrong. J.J. McCarthy looks like he should just be, putting the fries in the bag at this point with how he played last season. But man, you got Justin Jefferson and you can't get him the football. Like that blows my mind. I know that the Vikings aren't, perfect. They have some other, holes that they got to fill on their offense as well. But if you have Justin Jefferson out there running routes, he's not the same level as a Randy Moss or a Jerry Rice. But could you imagine if you just had a season where Jerry just, whatever. He had an okay year. Like that, what? Like that quarterback in San Francisco would have been, if Steve Young comes in his first year and Jerry has a type of season, I don't think Bill would have stuck with Steve at that point. So yeah, I mean, I think it's time that the Vikings pivot in another direction from McCarthy. He has just been so bad. So maybe Mac Jones. But Dwayne, same question to you, man. Do you think it is more likely that the 49ers will hold on to Mac Jones, or do you think it's more likely that they'll trade him?
It's more likely they'll trade him, because you got to look at too his cap number and all of that, and then something to think about too. Minnesota's got a decent defense, okay, and they got the wide receivers. They got some stuff in place, but man, if they trade him to the Vikings and the Vikings go to the Super Bowl, that'll be something, wouldn't it? You got to think about that too.
Yeah.
They're being traded two quarterbacks to contenders to make it to the Super Bowl, because guess what? Those teams got a defense, and that's something you got to think about. That's what carries teams to the championship is defense, and the 49ers need to. We talked about it. They need to add to that defense, and they need to add to that receiver core to get there. And those are some of the things that they lack. And then, man, if he does that, yeah, that'll be something that, like, wow. Kyle Shanahan train another quarterback and send him off to win a championship.
I mean, that's gotta boost the value for Mac Jones just a little bit, right? Like you can use the Sam Darnold thing to sell Mac Jones even harder. He can be like, hey man, you could be the Seahawks next year. I mean, that could be you. That's your sales pitch if you're trying to get the Vikings to bite and offer something more like that. There is no better sales pitch, I don't think, than saying, look, we've done this before. Don't you want to get in on this and see what your team could do? And man, it's never going to end. The Brock Purdy rumors or not rumors, but the lunatic fringe section of the 49ers fan base, who always want to point to some other random backup quarterback and say, this guy's better than Brock Purdy. And as long as Kyle Shanahan is turning out backup quarterback reclamation projects that turn into Super Bowl winners, that conversation's never going to end. And I'm not sitting here trying to fuel that fire or anything. I very definitively think that Brock Purdy is a much better quarterback than anybody that has been in that room probably since, maybe Jeff Garcia is sort of in the same stratosphere, but I think Brock's better than Jeff was. And I think he's probably the best quarterback that they've had since Steve Young. I mean, it's been a very long time since they've had a guy this talented at that position. I know Kaepernick had a couple electric years as well, but the longevity thing just wasn't there for him. And we did see some up and down play from Kaepernick as well. Obviously, the ceiling was incredible with him, but Brock has been so steady, so good for so long, and that counts for a lot in the NFL. I feel like anybody can have, not anybody, but a lot of players have, a really good season or maybe even two and then fall off. Brock, has I think solidified himself as one of the top tier quarterbacks in the NFL who is going to be there for a while. I don't think that he's going to disappear anytime soon. But Dwayne, you were talking about some of these other areas that the 49ers need to fill and that you gotta have a defense. And you can't have a proper defense if you don't have help over the top. And the 49ers really, really, really suffered in that category last year. So let's get into it. Safety, the giant hole in the back end of the secondary that the 49ers have. How are they going to fill it? We'll talk about that next on the Locked On 49ers Squad Show. Today's show is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Welcome to the 5 Hour Energy Flavor Draft. We're looking at every aspect of the draft to let you know which tasty flavors are the best and which just might be sleepers. The board is set, the flavors are ready, and only one is going to take the top spot. 5 Hour Energy has a wide variety of flavors and something for everybody. 5 Hour Energy shots give you a boost with zero sugar. And if you're like me and you're trying to cut some of that sugar out of your life, drop a few LBs, man, that is great because a lot of these energy drinks out there on the market have a ton of sugar in them. 5 Hour Energy, zero sugar, doesn't get better than that, man. So when we're talking about this flavor draft, I think for my number one pick, as I just kind of implied, I got a big sweet tooth. I really like the cotton candy flavor, man. That might be my number one overall pick. And, you know, there's some other underrated flavors out there, some other sleeper picks that you might be looking at. But for me, it's cotton candy as the number one selection. Find your new favorite flavor of 5 Hour Energy shots available online at 5hourenergy.com or Amazon. Welcome back to the Locked On 49ers Squad Show. I'm your host, Eric Triple E. Engel, joined by four-time Super Bowl champion Dwayne Board and Ayrton Ostley of USA Today, doing all sorts of mock drafts and covering everything all around the NFL. Ayrton himself is getting ready to head out to the draft combine pretty soon here. And, man, what an experience that must be. The Underwear Olympics live and in person. Better than that. But we got to break down the safety position, man, because I feel like this is a decent draft for safeties. I mean, there's obviously the top end with Caleb Downs, who I used as the thumbnail picture on this episode. And there's absolutely 0% chance that the 49ers are going to be able to draft him, in my opinion. I mean, there's no possible way that guy falls all the way to 27. He is just way too talented. And I think he's, could we even maybe see him, Ayrton, go in the top 10 potentially?
Yeah. I think that's because it gets to a point where looking at this class, he's a step above. Like, it's between him. The funny thing for me is between him and his teammate, linebacker Arvell Reese, linebacker slash edge Arvell Reese, for the best prospects overall. And after a certain point, you're like, you know what? Just take the best player available. Caleb Downs is the kind of guy that's a force multiplier in the back end, where it's like, okay, I understand safety isn't necessarily, you know, a high value position. It's one of the undervalued ones on the roster, but he just does so much for you that it's like he's going to make the rest of the secondary better. If adding him will do that, I think he's worth it for sure. I would be shocked if he's not a top 10 pick.
And it always kind of bugs me when I hear people say that the safety position is, I know it's undervalued in the NFL, but it bugs me when I hear people kind of like poo-poo the safety position, because when I think back to all of the great defenses I've seen in my lifetime, going back to the Ravens with Ed Reed in the back, going to the Legion of Boom with Earl Thomas and Cam Chancellor back there, those teams are not those teams without those players. Like, I would argue that the safety play on those teams was better than the cornerback play. I mean, maybe Richard Sherman might have a thing or two to say about that, but I do think that Earl Thomas was I mean, without him, the Legion of Boom is not the Legion of Boom. And Dwayne, you can speak to that too. I mean, what was the impact of having those two safeties back there with Earl Thomas and Cam Chancellor? And I know that you absolutely loved Cam when you had him back there for you guys, and that it was a complete game changer, because Richard Sherman and the rest of the Legion of Boom, man, I can't talk today. The rest of the Legion of Boom, they're not ended up being that top tier, you know, all time great defense without Earl Thomas and Cam Chancellor back there. So Dwayne, do you think that the safety position should be valued more?
Yeah, I think it's valued. It should be valued a lot more. You think about, hey, Ronnie Lott, he was a safety. What did he
There
do
you
for
go.
the team? And then, Cam Chancellor and Earl Thomas, they made you pay, okay? Receivers did not like running the crossing routes, okay? And I can't help but believe that, John Lynch, where did he play at Tampa Bay? Safety,
Red 47.
And,
Exactly.
those guys you talked about, they're just as important as a linebacker. I mean, as a quarterback to an offense. And you got to look at, and Cam Chancellor wasn't a high draft pick, okay? Earl was, but Cam, that guy he was the heart of that defense, really. And Earl was the second guy, and because Cam showed up in the pass and the run. I seen them take guards and put them to their knees, and linebackers can't even do that. And in this draft, there's some safeties out there, that they too that's going to show up. Like what's the guy, Emmanuel Warren from Toledo, a guy that's probably they're gonna look at him as being he's a box range responsibility kind of guy, and the defense is coming into the 49ers now. We was talking about what they might play. They're gonna need a box style safety in that defense because the run should be taken care of inside with the big guys and on the edge, and that's what we saw show up a lot in 49ers last year, man, was the edge. The edge just wasn't there. And I think John Lynch he'll pull a safety out this draft that's going to show up from day one, I believe.
Yeah, and the importance of the safety position last year, I think, was exacerbated by the Fred Warner injury because, I mean, you really saw what Fred Warner can do when he wasn't on the field there. I mean, his sideline to sideline ability to just absolutely just shut down a run game almost single-handedly and just be able to fly all over the field. And I mean, Fred Warner's setting the edge from the middle linebacker position, man. Like that's crazy. That's crazy. But that's literally what that guy does. Like, you are not getting around the edge when Fred Warner is on that defense. Even if you get a body on him, he's finding a way to
get it.
Yeah, he's going to get there. He's going to get there. But there were way too many instances where guys like Malik Mustafa and Marquise Siegel and everybody else, Jair Brown, virtually everybody who played at the safety position last year for the San Francisco 49ers, just taking awful routes to the ball and trying to just over pursue. And then you're just leaving wide open cutback lanes. And we saw the 49ers get repeatedly gashed over and over and over again in those type of situations. And you just can't have that. You can't have a proper run defense and just allow guys to run freely and leave these wide open cutback lanes. So you mentioned Emmanuel McNeil Warren, and he's a guy that I personally really like. I think that he might be an early second rounder, so might be tough for the 49ers to get in on him because I think you'd either have to trade up in the second round or really reach at that number 27 overall pick, which I think is maybe that's a little bit too much of a reach for the 49ers, but there is a scenario where maybe you trade back from that pick in the first round and you pick up an extra draft pick and you can use one of those to get an Emmanuel McNeil Warren. And he was graded by Pro Football Focus. Since we're going to be talking about some of that stuff later, I figured why not look at the Pro Football Focus rankings. He was rated he's projected to be the 35th overall best player in this draft. And he was rated as the second best safety in 2025, a 91.9 season grade, which who the hell really knows how they grade these guys. And he's played a ton of football, 654 snaps. I mean, he's played a lot of football. And I mean, you got some other guys you can look at, though, going down further into the second and third round. Ayrton, who are you keeping an eye on in this draft for the 49ers at safety?
Yeah, I think there's definitely something to be said for the Niners potentially trading back. I look at the Jets. If they fall in love with the quarterback and they want that fifth-year option, trading up, we could definitely see that happen. McNeil Warren is great. I have him at 39th on my big board. Love his mix of traits, that elite athleticism. But the nice thing is, in this class, there's a decent number of guys who have good ball production at the safety position. Look at somebody like Zakee Wheatley coming out of Penn State. Penn State's been a pretty good hotbed of safety talent lately in the last few years. You look at Jaquan Brisker. Obviously, we're familiar. We got Jair Brown, but also Kevin Winston and Jalen Reed taking care of business in Houston and Tennessee. So looking at these different options, there's definitely good ones coming out of Penn State. I like him. Decent ball production. He's best as a single high safety. Kamari Ramsey at a USC, outstanding play recognition, good in zone. He's a little bit limited athletically, laterally. So some man coverage assignments may be a little bit tough. That's where some of these things come up, where with these safeties there's a lot of good zone coverage safeties if you're looking for ones like that. One guy I'm keeping my eye on for sure, actually two of them, I'll go two of them. AJ Halsey out of LSU. He's built like a linebacker, 6 foot, 225, I think is what he came in at. Great ball production, 8 interceptions, 10 pass breakups in the last 2 years alone. That's pretty good for a safety in the SEC. He's a little bit older, so he may slide in the draft because of that. But at the same time, this is 49ers defense, this 49ers team that wants to win sooner than later. This is not a rebuild. This is a retool. So getting an older prospect, I don't think that's a big deal. If they want to go somebody a little bit more developmentally, look for Jalen Kilgore out of South Carolina. Obviously, South Carolina gave us Nick Emanwari last year, so everybody's going to be like, where's the next Emanwari? But Jalen Kilgore, a really impressive athlete, 6'1", 211, so not quite as big as Halsey, but decent size, really good speed. At this point, a lot of his coverage is instincts over technique. So he's one where he's like, he has that baseline level athleticism you can build on. So I look at those guys. Probably going to be day 2, probably round 3 into round 4.
Yeah, and it's worth noting that, as we talked about a couple shows ago last week, that Raheem Morris is going to be running a lot of zone defense here in San Francisco, or at least if he sticks to his track record, that's what we're going to see him mostly running his base sets in, is going to be zone defense with that single high safety. So, and there is, of course, the possibility that somebody on the roster gets a little bit better. Marquise Siegel, who was a good tackler but really struggled in coverage at certain points, and maybe he gets a little bit better on the back end of just playing center field, so to speak. And maybe Jair Brown, who I feel like that guy is so feast or famine. I mean, he has the ball skills. You can see that. Like, he is able to pull down some interceptions, but there's too many mistakes. Like, he'll make a play that flashes, and then he'll make a play that leaves you scratching your head going, what the hell was he seeing on that play? Why did he do that? And so there's just, you got to find, I think, somebody to shore up that back end. And it might not have to come through the draft, right? Like, there's a lot of NFL free agents at the safety position this year that I think that they could go and maybe kick some tires on, including some guys from within the division that we have seen play pretty well these last couple seasons. Guys like Cam Curl from the Rams, or guys like Kobe Bryant from the Seattle Seahawks. I mean, first of all, how do you not want a guy named Kobe Bryant on your team? But also there's a lot of other guys out there. Jaquan Brisker from the Bears, who I think might be another option to look at. Jalen Thompson from the Cardinals, another option right there. So, Dwayne, would you rather see the 49ers go after a veteran at this position, or would you rather see them get younger and go get a guy through the draft? Because the last few years, I mean, we have seen the 49ers go and get safeties in free agency and bring some of these older guys in that, like, I think about Gibson, who really kind of stabilized the secondary for those for the years that he was here. I mean, he was a great free agent pickup. You didn't pay a ton for him, and he really worked out in his time here. So would you rather see them go and get a veteran, or maybe just retool and start from scratch and get a guy in the draft?
I think they should bring in a veteran. They need a veteran for the young group that they had, and then they can go out and grab a guy in the draft, which with the veterans help those guys come along a lot faster. And I know when they brought Gibson in, when I was in Cleveland, I wasn't real fond of Gibson. I was surprised at how long he played, but the guy really, he held on for a long time. But anybody comes out of Cleveland, if you put some players around them, they'll be pretty good, because Cleveland is Cleveland. So I would go out and get a veteran. to add to those young guys. Because right now they don't have no veteran leadership. But going back, they should have never let what was his name? Go to Denver. What was the safety we had? They let
Fonga.
Funga. They should have never let him go. I like that guy, man. He was a hitter. He did a great job. I thought in coverage, maybe they saw something in him that they didn't like, so they let him go. And I think they should have held on to him.
Yeah, Hufanga's been obviously a very big piece of that Denver defense, which is very, very, very good now. And I miss Huff. I do miss him. He was super fun to watch. And man, the safeties that I always think back to that I just wish the 49ers could get back to this and kind of like get some attitude at that position. Dante Whitner, the hitman Dante Whitner, and Sean Goldson back there, just absolutely terrifying opponents. I mean, having those guys at safety, like you talk about striking fear in the heart of your opponent before you're even stepping onto the field. Like, that other team is game planning for how to not get their clock cleaned when they're coming over the middle trying to catch a pass. And when you can instill something like that in your opponent before you even step onto the field, like that's a little bit of a win already for you right there. Like if they're already worried about getting just destroyed trying to come over the middle, or to go back to the Cam Chancellor thing we were talking about earlier, if you're Vernon Davis running down the sideline, if you're worrying about just getting absolutely annihilated, you're going to think twice before you're going up to make that catch. And I would just love to see the 49ers get a guy who plays with that type of tenacity and that type of nastiness at that position. And it's something that I think this defense really lacks. Like, you got Fred Warner out there who plays with that level, and I think he kind of tries to lift everybody else on that defense up. Like, I love Nick Bosa, but man, he talks like this, and I know he's a great player, but he's just a little slow sometimes. Seems a little too chill for me. I need a guy who is an absolute maniac, Tasmanian devil back there at the safety position, who wants to go and stick his nose in there and blow somebody up and just inspire the rest of the team to play with that level of toughness. I know Fred does that, but if you have another guy on the team that is also pushing that same kind of narrative, oh man, it makes things a whole lot different in the attitude that your team comes in with. I mean, that's what I think this 49ers defense is missing the most is an attitude, is an identity, is a standard. If man's got to have a standard, and Fred Warner sets that standard for sure on the defense, but you got to have other people to be on board and help with the buy-in from the rest of the team. And Dwayne, I know that you guys had a lot of attitude guys in your era, starting with Ronnie Lott, but I know it wasn't just Ronnie. You had to have other guys on that defense buying in and pushing each other. And what is that like when you have a locker room that is, looking to go out there and cause some damage versus a locker room that's maybe a little more relaxed and chill? I mean, what's the difference in the intensity on the defensive side of the ball?
Well, when you got those players, we call them, somebody picked up on it this year, they call them the dark side guys, but we had the guys that went to that other, they went to that dark room. When they went in that dark room and came out, hey, the eyes was red, they was drooling at the mouth, and they was kind of like fighting dogs, they were ready to go bite somebody. And that's what you got to have on that back end. You got to have some guys back there that's willing to fight, to go bite somebody. You don't want no porch dog where you go jump up and down on the porch and the dog don't run. You got to have a dog that goes out there and hunt. And that's what we had. We had guys on the back end that went and hunt. They went to hunt, With Ronnie, you had Eric Wright, you had Dwight Hicks, okay? And I remember we went to play the Pittsburgh Steelers in Pittsburgh, okay? And Pittsburgh ended up, they knocked out every receiver the Steelers had. And the Steelers ended up playing, I forget the quarterback's name, coming out of Arizona State. They ended up playing him at wide receiver. They even knocked him out. And they let you know, too. They let each one of those guys that they KO'd, they let him know, when you come across in my zone, you gotta pay, and that's it, man. That's secondary counts a lot today in football.
And I mean, I know that Ronnie Lott is one of one, But man, I feel like if you put a Ronnie Lott back there for this 49ers defense, like they instantly become one of the most terrifying defenses in the NFL. And that's what the safety position can do for you. I mean, again, just to go back to where we started with this, it frustrates me when people devalue what safeties can do for a team, because this is what I know it's not a premier position in the NFL, but damn, is it important. And if you don't have that back end help, if you don't have that level of nastiness, it's an identity thing. And every great defense that you've ever seen in the NFL had an identity. And it was usually what you were just talking about, Dwayne, guys who go to the dark side. And you don't really have too many of those guys on the 49ers right now. You got Fred Warner, and I don't know what else. I mean, you got to have guys that can go into that zone and just be ready to go out and hunt, like you said. So I hope that the 49ers are able to go and fill something at this position. We'll see what happens in this offseason and whether or not they go the free agency route or the draft route. But ultimately, I think you got to add somebody that brings that nastiness to the team. We got to move on. We got to talk about some other things before we get on out of here. Pro Football Focus, top 101 players. We got a few 49ers mentioned. We got to get into that a little bit if we got time at the end. But next, we got to talk about the coaching poaching. The Seattle Seahawks coming in, and I think kind of surprisingly, at least to me it was a surprise, stealing the 49ers tight end coach to go be their offensive coordinator. Man, I was excited to get Callahan out of there. But now we got a situation on our hands. So let's talk about that next here on the Locked On 49ers Squad Show. Today's show is brought to you by Indeed. Workplace chaos, deadline stacking up, inbox overflowing, and one position you still have to fill sitting open. When the pressure's on and you need the right hire, that is a job for sponsored jobs on Indeed. Indeed sponsored jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for. Skills, experience, location. So you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles upon your post on LinkedIn. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all of your boxes with Indeed sponsored jobs. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Less stress, less time, more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show rather by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. Welcome back to the Locked On 49ers Squad Show. I'm your host, Eric Triple E. Engel, joined by four-time Super Bowl champion Dwayne Board and Ayrton Osley of USA Today. And guys, I'm wondering if you were as surprised as I was about the coaching poaching. I mean, to see a 49ers head coach get hired away is not a shocking thing. I mean, we see this almost every single season. The brain trust gets drained a little bit more every year. But Brian Fleury, I did not expect that Brian Fleury was going to go to the Seahawks as their offensive coordinator this year. This one kind of shocked me, and to see Kubiak leave, I was kind of excited because he did a lot of really interesting things with that Seattle offense. I think he made a unit that was greater than the sum of its parts. That's what I was trying to say. There we go. But we'll see what happens with Brian Fleury up there. But it doesn't make me feel very good to see a 49ers coach go somewhere in the division, man. And especially to the Seahawks, man. That is not the team that I want to see any 49ers coach going to. So, Dwayne, we were talking about this a little bit before the show. What's your feelings on this, man? Like, how's that sitting with you?
Well, it's not sitting too well with me because, for one thing, the Seahawks made that call because of Kubiak, because now they're keeping some relationship of the offense intact, okay, because of the situation that, with Kubiak being with the 49ers and moving on in the direction of he's able to, continue that offense. But I think it's a bad call. It's like trading one of your best players away to a team in your division or a team in your conference. And it's different from Charles Haley being traded from the San Francisco 49ers to the Dallas Cowboys. That's a little different. But you don't go out and let one of your coaches go to one of your nemesis, okay? And I think it's going to be not so well for the 49ers because this guy, when you got a tight ends coach, he knows the offense, okay? Because most tight end coaches are involved in the blocking schemes of the run game, which is critical, and also in the passing game. So they went and got the guy who knows the 49ers running game and also the 49ers passing game. So what do you do about that? Hey, send them off to somewhere you don't. If you're trying to get rid of them, send them to the Raiders. Send them to Jacksonville or send them to Buffalo. And that was the thing. Is like, hey, well, we're gonna send this guy away to somewhere where we don't have to worry about him. We'll send him to the Jacksonville Jaguars, or we'll send him to the Buffalo, or we'll send him to the Jets, okay? So we don't have to worry about him. Don't send him to the team you got to play twice a year. That doesn't work.
And I mean, of all teams for a 49ers coach to go to this offseason, the Seahawks has to be the worst one. I mean, this is a team coming off a Super Bowl win. This is, at least I know, Dwayne, you'll disagree with me on this one. I know your hatred is reserved for the Rams, but for me in my era, it's the Seahawks, man. Like, I cannot stand watching the Seahawks continue to win, coming off winning the Super Bowl at damn Levi's Stadium. And now they're stealing a 49ers head coach too. I mean, when's it stop, man? You got to go steal Christian McCaffrey next? You got to just take Kyle Shanahan on your way out too? Like, what? They're leaving Levi's just with multiple 49ers in tow and just saying, come on back to Seattle and see if you like it up here in the rainy Pacific Northwest. I lived in the Pacific Northwest for a little bit, man, and I can tell you, it's a lot better to be here in the San Francisco Bay Area than living up there. It is rainy. It is dreary, especially during those football months. You don't want to be playing on those sloppy fields. I know you got the 12s up there and all that, but you want to be here where you're having nice fall, moderate climate days. And I know that the substation is right out over there by the practice field. Just forget about that for a second. And come on, make the right choice. Be here in San Francisco, one of the greatest cities in the world. And man, it's just frustrating to see Brian Fleury go. And it is what you were saying there, Dwayne, about the run game situation. And Brian Fleury was also the run game coordinator for the 49ers this last year. It's not the first time that they're losing their run game coordinator. I mean, Mike McDaniel was the same kind of deal. And it seems like every year the 49ers run game coordinator gets snatched away to go to somewhere else. And I guess it makes sense because the Kyle Shanahan run scheme is so creative. It's so different than what other teams do or were doing when Kyle started kind of putting things together here in San Francisco. And it feels like the rest of the league is kind of starting to adapt to that. And part of that is that the Shanahan coaching tree is just absolutely massive. I mean, both with Mike and Kyle, because that's basically the same running game scheme and all that. I mean, it seems like everybody else in the NFL has somebody from that coaching tree on their staff that can kind of implement some of these things. So, Ayrton, how does Shanahan kind of improve the run game, even though he's constantly losing his run game coordinators? How does he stay a step ahead of the rest of the NFL? What is he able to do to kind of keep evolving and keep making this offense something new and something fresh?
I think one thing that Shanahan does a good job of is identifying ways to attack opposing defenses. Like, okay, how do we key in? There's a meme going around of like a magnifying glass over a guy, and it's like Kyle Shanahan realizing your linebacker can't set the edge. So that's the thing, is he's just got a bank of ideas where it's like whatever weaknesses you have, he's going to exploit. And also understanding, hey, there was earlier on when he was first here with the 49ers, went for some lighter offensive linemen. There was a lot of movement, a lot of zone, a lot of outside zone, getting to the edge. Okay, Vic Fangio comes along, stymies that. okay, let's run a little bit more power. Basically just responding to being like, okay, looking around. I wouldn't be surprised that, I mean, I'm hoping this is the case. Shanahan looks around and he sees that what Mike McDonald does with having the big nickel and basically teams that are comfortable being in nickel against the run and being like, oh, okay, bet. We'll just go 13 personnel. We'll have multiple tight ends out there. Good luck stopping this. So basically he does a good job identifying what the league ethos is on defense and finding ways to evolve his own scheme where he's like, he's not married to, outside zone is great. But if that's not going to work against most teams now, evolve, adapt or die. It's what you got to do. And he does a good job of figuring out what ways to adapt.
Man, I saw Dwayne's eyes just light up when you brought up that 13 personnel because Dwayne, the whole last season, I feel like every single show, there were two things that Dwayne would always talk about, regardless of what happened in the game. Running games up front on defense and getting into 13 personnel and punishing the opposing defense. And so, I mean, it's exactly what Dwayne has been screaming for this whole last 2025 NFL season. But it makes sense. It makes sense. The 49ers, that's one of their best position groups, especially when George Kittle's healthy, that you can put out there on the field. I mean, you just have so many looks that you can go out of that too. Like you can run play action out of that. You can, which is where I think Brock Purdy is at his best when this offense is at its most, multiple and diverse, ability in front of them. And obviously you can run the hell out of the football in that formation. And when you got Christian McCaffrey sitting back there, you got to get him all of the openings that you possibly can. And so Dwayne, do you think 13 personnel? I already know what you're going to say to this, but 13 personnel, what just go, man. Yeah, 13 personnel. What do the 49ers need to do to make sure that they continue to use this set and punish opposing defenses?
Well, it's easy for the 49ers to get in the 13 personnel if they keep the fullback in because, they put the fullback in and with another tight end and George Kittle, that's a mismatch for teams. And it's hard, The only team that showed, you mentioned it, was the Seahawks because when they came out against the 49ers, when they played them in Levi late in the season, they came out with they came out with 4 safeties on the field. And when you put that much speed on the field, and it's tough. And the thing that they need is to get into more of that heavy formation, with some 22 personnel. And you can move and give them great looks. You know who came up with that? Of all people, was John Gruden in Tampa Bay. He was the first to come up with that, and he made it hard on you. And what he would do was he would substitute guys and would run them out late, so you wouldn't have time to match. You might be in nickel, and all of a sudden he done went to 13 personnel. Now you got your nickel on the field, and the NFL came over with a rule stopping the play until you could get the right personnel in, so you can match them. But now you can just line up in it now, and teams will have to match. And that's what I like about 13 personnel. It's hard. And especially when you get down in goal line, if you get into 13 personnel and spread it out and put one of them guys in the backfield, man, that's a killer. Because you can't get your goal line on the field, okay? So because they done open your goal line personnel up to match. And it's a mismatch because when you go goal line, when they see 13 personnel on the field, they go goal line, they open the formation up. It's a mismatch because now you got all these slow guys on the field, run stoppers on the field. They start throwing the ball on you. Man, it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's also a good way to maximize the talents of a George Kittle, of a Kyle Juszczyk, of a Christian McCaffrey in the pass game as well. I mean, these guys – or if you put a linebacker on any of those guys, they are going to win that matchup. I mean, 99 times out of 100. Like that is, I mean, just a death sentence to any defense, any linebacker that's hoping to cover Christian McCaffrey or George Kittle. Like that, good luck, buddy. That's just not going to happen. It's like me trying to block Dwayne coming off the line. I'm flat on my back every single time. So I mean, it's the 49ers best position grouping. I mean, it gets your best position groups on the field. I mean, the 49ers we know they are lacking talent at the wide receiver position. You know that they have a surplus of talent at the running back position, at the they have one fullback, but that's one more than most teams in the NFL have. And you also got a bunch of talent at the tight end position. Jake Tonjes was very good last year. George Kittle obviously is one of the best tight ends, if not the best tight end in the NFL. Utilize these guys, maximize their ability. And I think that we should see a little bit more of that this next year. I think that the 49ers need to kind of upgrade some positions on the offensive line, at least the guard position. And, I don't want to get into this too much. We'll save this for another day, but Wyatt Teller from the Browns, anybody? I mean, it might be a good option for the 49ers to go and see if they can get him to come on over here to San Francisco, although that price tag might be pretty hefty. We'll talk about that next week on a later show. But man, there's a lot that the 49ers can do, I think, to continue to evolve this run game and to kind of backfill the brain trust. And again, kind of like the Mac Jones thing we were talking about earlier, I trust Kyle Shanahan and this coaching staff to bring along whoever the hell they're putting in as the run game coordinator. Kyle Shanahan is just telling them what system to run, and those guys are able to kind of not learn on the job, so to speak, but they're getting exponentially better while Kyle Shanahan is sitting there guiding them while they're under the tutelage of one of the best run game masters in the NFL. So I think that they'll be fine. It is annoying that the 49ers are losing a guy who knows their offense inside and out to your number one rival who's coming off a Super Bowl win in your own home stadium. All that's very frustrating. Don't get me wrong. But I do think the 49ers will be just fine in their run game. I don't think this changes much for them. I think it is a good hire. If you're a Seahawks fan, you're probably a little bit excited about this because not only is your run game going to stay intact with that two-headed monster that they got up there in Seattle, but you're also going to have a little bit of an inside scoop on what the 49ers are doing if they don't evolve too much in this coming season with their run game. So we'll see what happens going forward. But man, it's frustrating to see 49ers coaches get hired every single year, get hired away from the team, but it's even more frustrating when it's the damn Seahawks doing it. So I don't know what to say about that, man. We got to take one more quick break here, and on the back end, we'll wrap the show up with a brief little PFF top 101 players. The full list has not been released, but so far they've released 21 through 101. So we got 4 49ers mentioned so far. Who are they? Are they ranked appropriately? We'll talk about that next on the Locked On 49ers Squad Show.
Hey, it's Matt Derry from the Locked On Lions podcast. The people I love depend on me. If I'm gone, the financial responsibilities don't disappear. I didn't want my family figuring things out during the hardest moment of their lives. That's why I knew only one place to go. I chose life insurance through my friends at Ethos. Ethos makes getting life insurance fast and easy, 100% online. You can get a quote in seconds, apply in minutes, and get same-day coverage. There's no medical exam. You just answer a few simple health questions. You can get up to $3 million in coverage. Some policies are as low as $30 a month. I love the folks at Ethos. Protect your family with life insurance from Ethos now by going to ethos.com/LockedOnNFL. In as little as 10 minutes, you can get the free quote and up to $3 million in coverage at ethos.com/LockedOnNFL. That is ethos.com/LockedOnNFL. Ethos.com/LockedOnNFL. Application times and rates may vary.
Welcome back to the Locked On 49ers Squad Show. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel, joined by Dwayne Board, 4-time Super Bowl champion, and Ayrton Osley of USA Today. And guys, 4 49ers so far in the Pro Football Focus top 101. We only have 21 through 101 released. Now, I'm a little I don't know. I'm a little peeved looking at this list, man. It just kind of baffles me how they do these rankings. I wish that they were a little more, granular with what these scores are sometimes. But man, so let me just tell you where they're at. George Kittle, number 27. That one doesn't bother me too much. I think he's appropriately ranked there. George Kittle, one of the best players of any sort in the NFL. For my money, the best tight end in the NFL. you got Christian McCaffrey at number 54, which what? Like, did you not see this guy just single-handedly carry this football team to the NFL playoffs last year? What other running back in the NFL is doing that? That's a giant question mark for me. Colton McKivitz, number 63. I mean, I like my guy Colton McKivitz. He's been a very solid tackle for the 49ers. He has become probably the most consistent offensive lineman that they have, which is something that I never thought that I would say about that guy a couple years ago. But he's a guy that you kind of can't live without right now on the offensive line. But then you got Brock all the way down at number 81, which that one kind of baffles me too, because I know that this guy missed a bunch of games last year, but when I'm looking at other guys that were ranked, like Joe Burrow's ranked above him, and he barely played at all last season. Got Dak Prescott ranked above him. What do we got to do to get some love for my guy Brock Purdy, Ayrton?
I don't know. And I think this is one where I have some qualms with the way PFF grades a lot of the positions. Like, yeah, I think Colton McKivitz had a great season. He played much better than I thought he would. I was very much like on the train of let's get him out of here. But honestly, a pretty good run game blocker, decent pass protection. It's like, okay, I'm okay. I'm okay with that. Like we can be cool with him. 63rd, that seems a bit rich. Like putting him ahead of Max Crosby, putting him ahead of Nick Bonito, putting him ahead of Brock Bowers. Granted, some of those guys also had injury concerns, but I'm like, that seems a little. I like McKivitz enough. I don't know. I would rather have Brock Bowers. I think he played better in 2025 when on the field. So this is one where I'm kind of like some of these I struggle with because, yeah, putting McCaffrey 54th, like, and looking at some of the folks ahead of him at the running back position. I mean, granted, you can make a good case for Devon Achane, but still, it takes for me putting Kenneth Walker ahead of him doesn't make much sense. This is one of those ones where I think these grades are so dependent on everything else around you. And it's not necessarily, oh, these grades are good because you individually had a great season. I struggle with it. I think Brock should be higher. That's just, yeah.
I mean, Kenneth Walker at 33. I mean, I get that he's probably getting a little bump because of the Super Bowl MVP. Devon Achane at number 30. I mean, yeah, he had some nice numbers. Did you watch a Dolphins game ever? Because a lot of that was just garbage time BS. And the Dolphins knowing, hey, we're not winning this game. Let's just hand the ball off and just kind of keep the clock running and just get on out of here and eat this L again. But I mean, what? It just doesn't make any sense to me at all. Does Devon Achane just carry the Miami offense? No, not the way that Christian McCaffrey does. I don't think Kenneth Walker carries the Seahawks offense the way that Christian McCaffrey does. He's got another guy back there to help carry the load in Zach Charbonnet. And that's not to take away from those two guys. Those guys are very good at their position. The other running back who was rated above McCaffrey so far in the list, or that has been released so far, is Jahmyr Gibbs, which I'm not gonna debate that one really. Like Jahmyr Gibbs is I mean, if you have Jahmyr Gibbs ranked higher than a Christian McCaffrey, like I'm not going to fight you on that. He has been absolutely electric for the Detroit Lions, and he has been so damn good these last couple seasons. And this year, kind of taken the reins really from David Montgomery, and there's not really a timeshare going on anymore. It is the Jahmyr Gibbs show in that backfield, and he has been electric for the Lions. So I don't have too many qualms with that. But yeah, man, this list just. We don't even have the full complete list yet, and it just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And Dwayne, the question I have for you, because I know how much you love Trevor Lawrence after we watched that Jaguars game, the 49ers Jags earlier this year. Would you rather have Trevor Lawrence instead of Brock Purdy? I mean, this list suggests that he's, Trevor Lawrence ranked at 72, Brock ranked at 81. I mean, which quarterback would you rather have, Dwayne?
Come on, you look at Trevor Lawrence's haircut, man. That's a sure giveaway right there. I don't like a guy with his hair hanging out of his helmet. Okay, so that's going to say a lot. Maybe he should go to somebody like who would be a good team for Trevor Lawrence to go away again, because last year was his best year ever at quarterback and still wasn't great. So. How can you take him over Brock Purdy? I would never, ever, ever take Trevor Lawrence over.
What about, well, first of all, Dwayne, you can't be coming for the locks when you see the luscious locks of a Triple E on the show.
No. I said out from a helmet, okay? It's okay, when you wear when you
Beanie's
wear
okay.
your beanie's okay, but when you're wearing it on a helmet, come on, man, that doesn't work. Okay, so bring somebody else along. And,
So
and I can't believe that they even those quarterbacks, like we said, with the way it's graded. How can you put Brock Purdy so low?
yeah, I mean the only two quarterbacks that he's ranked higher than on this list are Justin Herbert from the Chargers, who I really like his ceiling, but Herbert, makes some questionable decisions with the football at times that really hurt him and his team. And Sam Darnold, who was the backup to Brock Purdy for a number of years. Brock's not rated that much higher than Darnold. And I know that he did just go win a Super Bowl, but it wasn't Sam Darnold who led the Seahawks there. Let's be real. It was that defense and that run game. Brock Purdy, without Brock Purdy on the 49ers, I mean, I know Mac Jones was able to get the job done in his stead, but I mean, for a full season without Brock, I don't think that this team is going to be very successful. And I got one other guy for you, Dwayne. What about Dak Prescott, your favorite team, the Dallas Cowboys? And would you rather have Dak or would you rather have Brock?
Hey, okay, let's not even talk about Dak. I would take Brock Purdy over Jordan Love myself too, but Dak, he is way overrated to me in the quarterback pool. If he was that great, the Cowboys would be better. Okay, and it's no way I would still put Purdy ahead of him. And again, Jordan Love. I'm not a big Jordan Love fan myself. Okay.
It really shocks me that Dwayne is not a fan of the Dallas Cowboys quarterbacks or the Green Bay Packers quarterbacks. It's just really shocking to me. And I'm sure that if we talk about Matthew Stafford, you wouldn't be the biggest Matt Stafford fan either.
Oh, no, not him, not at all. He's always complaining to the officials, too. That bugs me, okay? It's like, hey, don't let nobody get close to me. It's your job. As talking to him, that's him talking to the guys in the striped shirts. That's your job to keep them guys off of me, okay? And I don't like a guy that complains all the time.
Yeah. Nah, I mean, that's my biggest qualm with Patrick Mahomes is every single time that a guy even runs close to him, he's looking at the refs, his arms all over the place. He's one of those inflatable things in front of the car dealerships. Even his arms all over the place.
Arms blowing in the wind.
Exactly.
But man, I would bet that if you had a CeeDee Lamb here in San Francisco, that Brock Purdy would be putting up some Dak Prescott numbers too, man. Think about what Brock has done I know Jordan Love also didn't really have a great receiving core around him, but I would definitely rank it as better than what the 49ers had. And the Cowboys, I mean, George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb out there. I mean, of course Dak has, these really gaudy passing numbers when he got those type of targets. Joe Burrow, he barely even played this year, but when he did, you got T. Higgins, you got Jamar Chase, you got the entire Cincinnati Bengals payroll invested in that offense. Of course he's going to have some targets and have some good passing numbers because they're playing from behind, and that's all that those teams can do when they're in those situations is hope and pray that your high-flying wide receivers can, get you back into the game with some deep balls. The Trevor Lawrence thing, I was pretty impressed with what he did this year. I'm not as down on him as Dwayne is personally, but he has not had that level of consistency that a Brock Purdy has. So I mean, there are going to be several other quarterbacks that are going to be ranked higher than Brock that will be released as well, and we can complain about that when that time comes. But Drake May at 25, I don't got a problem with that. The dude had an amazing year, MVP candidate. I mean, he took a Patriots offense that was absolutely anemic and turned this team into a winner. I know the Patriots had an absolute cakewalk of a schedule this year through that AFC East, and that they played a lot of really awful defenses. But, you only play who's in front of you. They're all NFL teams. Shout out Drake May for really taking that New England Patriots team to another level. But I got some issues with this list, man. We got to have a conversation with Florio one of these days and see what the hell is going on over there at Pro Football Focus. But that's all the time that we got for you guys today. I told you I would try to keep it a little tighter, and lo and behold, we ran, almost 10 minutes overtime again today. It's a lot of stuff to talk about, man. A lot of stuff to talk about. And of course, it's always a good time just hanging out with my guys, Dwayne and Ayrton. So appreciate you guys both for another fun edition of the Locked On 49er Squad show. Shout out all our everydayers sticking around to the end of the episode. Make sure you are subscribed however you're getting the show, whether it's on the Locked On 49ers YouTube channel or the podcast channel. We appreciate you tuning in. Until next time, for my guys Dwayne and Ayrton, I am your host, Eric Triple E. Engel. We'll see you next time. Peace.